Why does some management use scapegoats? That was a question brought up to me the other day, and I'd like to read you the question. And it actually came up because I did a video on following policy and procedure to protect yourself, and a officer sent me a very good question. He said he does follow policy and procedure, and he believes you should, but what if an agency or agency's daily practice do not mirror their own policies? For example, policy might say 2 officers must always be in a dorm and the agency only assigns 1 officer. An inmate dies and the lone officer is investigated for violating policy. Will the officer be a scapegoat or exonerated? It's a good question, and he just gave that as an example. That's just something that came to his mind. And I gave another example back to him stating, what if you have an inmate who is a high escape risk, very dangerous, very violent inmate, and at the jail the inmate is coded to always have 2 people, and he should have 2 people on him during transport and at the hospital. And the agency only sends 1. Doesn't matter, 1 male, 1 female. In this particular incident that I remember, it was a female officer who had to do hospital watch on one of these inmates. And the inmate was able to escape. He beat her, but she was able to chase him outside of the hospital. Long story short, if the agency tried to use that officer as a scapegoat, saying it was her fault the inmate escaped. Very touchy situations here. Very touchy situations. And, you know, of course, when the investigation starts, in either scenario, the one the officer who sent the question in gave or the one I just gave you, they're going to see if the officer violated any policies and procedures. But the agency also did not follow their own policy and procedure. So what happens then? Well, in many cases, unfortunately, you'll have managers who try to put all the blame on the weakest link, which is considered the officer in their mind. Now, in my mind, the frontline officers are the backbone of the agency, the strongest link. But now, if you're a manager trying to protect your agency from being sued, trying to protect your own job, unfortunately, there'll be times when the backbone is missing from management. And they'll want to put all the blame on the officer, and you'll read in the newspaper, officer fired from county jail yesterday for failure to do this, failure to that on the inmate escape from the hospital, or officers being disciplined and they will be retrained and taught how to do things correctly and so forth, where the management, nothing's happening to the management. Why isn't the management being investigated as well? Well, we hope they are, and in many cases they are, but what happens to them? If you have a good old boy system, nobody in the management rank is going to lose anything. But the poor officer is going to lose everything down here. And I'm not saying this happens. Let's get this straight. I'm not saying this happens in every agency. But, come on now. The truth hurts. And we know it's happened. We've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in the state prison system. And I've seen it happen in the county jail, where the lone officer is the scapegoat. And I really appreciate this officer sending in this question, because it's a real question. It's a reality question. It happens. So now, you know, if some of you are looking that are in management at this video, I know you got your guns loaded, and we know all the things that can be said and done to where it's not management's fault. But if management is not following their own policies and procedures and leaving officers out to dry, they need to get some backbone and take the heat for it. If you're going to punish the officer, then let's punish somebody in management as well for not having the policies and procedures followed as they state in your own policy and procedure manual. You know, I don't want to get into politics, but sometimes it's like politics. You know, the politician gets away with murder. Sometimes management in jails and prison systems and corrections gets away with murder. So we have to try to be as fair and impartial as possible for our officers. You know, you're short-staffed, so that's probably the reason you ended up with one officer on this hospital watch or one officer in this dorm, as the question was presented to us. So you're now already placing the officers in a dangerous situation. So now when something blows up, the officer's the only scapegoat? I don't think that should be the way it is. I think we should investigate to the fullest, and we should put the blame where the blame needs to be. Okay? I'm pro policies and procedures, but I'm also pro fairness. Now, I think I got my point across, and it was a good question. Thank you for sending that in. I won't mention the person's name. They didn't say I shouldn't, but I didn't ask them if I can. But the policy and procedure video that I did the other day, right before this video that you're watching now, was also requested by someone in another state for me to do as well. So now this is a follow-up on that, and that was a great way to reverse it. I talked about policies and procedures protecting the officers. Well, what about the policies and procedures not being followed by management? Good question. Now, there's some things to do. I cannot tell anybody what to do in that situation. Every situation is different. Every situation varies and has variables in it. You yourself have to know, do I want to just be the scapegoat and go with the flow and hopefully I don't lose my job and just go on and finish my career? Or are they trying to terminate you for this happening, and is a family member on the outside trying to sue you individually? That would be time, in my opinion, to get a good civil attorney, a civil attorney that you feel is strong and can go with you to help you, because I wouldn't take that lying down if they were going to fire me over something that happened and they're violating their own policy. That's just me. I am not going to tell anybody what to do. You have to make your own mind up and be your own person. But if you think you have been a scapegoat in a situation, 2 examples were just given, and you do not want to lay down and just take it, then fight it. But I cannot tell you fight it or don't fight it. You have to look over your own situation. If they're not going to fire you and they're going to put you on the porch for a few days and you've still got 10 years left to get your full pension, do you want to fight it or do you want to lay down and take it? It may not be fair now that you lay down and take it. It may not be fair, but do you take one for the team and finish your career and retire? And on the other flip of the coin, are they trying to terminate you and just bury you alive? Well, maybe you need to get an attorney and fight it. Anyway, some things to think about, and I appreciate that question. It was a good question. Let us know what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching Gary York True Prison Stories. Please subscribe.